Martin Stevens, who have written a very powerful book called Raising Up Role Models. I'm going to ask him to introduce himself to us.
Pastor Brian? Pastor Brown, indeed, yes. My name is Martin Stevens, and I have proudly been used to write this amazing book, which I do believe is one of the most important books to date. And it's called Raising Up Role Models, and it's for our community. And it's designed to help equip the community so we can help our younger generation.
Okay, Stephen, let me ask you then, so what inspired you to write this book? I know you said it in your opening remarks roughly, but give us a little bit more detail. So what really inspired you on a personal level to write this book?
Thank you, great question. For me, I was inspired to write this book based on personal experience and through conversations I had had with some friends. Long and short, you know, when I had 2 children, my wife and I, we had 2 sons. We were contemplating having a third child, and whilst we were waiting to see, you know, whether we were gonna try again, I thought to myself, but wait, I'm a godfather to several godchildren. Let me improve my role as a godfather in the meantime.
You have to make sure that they're safe.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to speak a little bit about that? I know it's all mentioned in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to say a little bit more about that, making sure, how do you know that the person you're asking to be a godparent, apart from reading your book, how are you going to know that this person is safe to be engaged as a godparent?
Okay, so it depends on what level you want to take it to. So for parents who are choosing to appoint their own family members, that's probably one of the safest routes, because that's you know your family. So appointing family members is often the preferred choice of some people. For example, my very first goddaughter is also my very first niece. Okay. And so that connection there already, you know, she has my heart. And there's nothing that I would, you know, and we want more individuals to kind of have that mindset. But if you're going to appoint somebody who's not family, I'm not saying that people who are not family can't do wrong.
Yes.
You know, we do have to be mindful of certain things. But if you're going to choose someone who's not family, but they're a friend or what have you, there's such a thing called a DBS, where you can do it, CRB, where you can do a check to find out if this person has any prior convictions or any issues with children, if they're on the register of, you know, sex offenders or anything like that.
Right.
You can check them out before selecting them. So that's one way to safeguard yourself. But the book also talks about how to position yourself in a way where you're using wisdom to make sure that you have appropriate conversations. So for example, as a godfather to the goddaughter, there's certain conversations that's appropriate and some that are inappropriate, and it's to be mindful of those kind of things, knowing what it's wiser to stay away from discussing. Or maybe if your wife, if that person's wife is also the godmother, then letting her have certain conversations with the goddaughter instead of yourself, because of wisdom.
Yeah.
You know.
Wow.
So,
Fantastic answer. Wow. So not only is this book good for you information, but it's also safe. It offers safety for when you're choosing godparents. So one of the problems we have sometimes, one of the problems that parents said to me about their godparents that they have chosen, because the children do not choose their own godparents. It's the parents that choose them, and most of them, in most cases, some of them can be very lazy. From the day they come to the party and you don't see them again. At Christmas time or birthday time, they will send a present, but they rarely interact with the godchildren. And this is one of the reasons why this book is a must for every potential godparent and parents that are appointing godparents. You need to get a hold of this book. Amen. I'm not advertising, but I that's how impressive I am with the book. Anything else you want to say before we sort of wrap up into some other quick questions and answers?
Yeah, several things. I mean, earlier on was talking about apologizing and forgiveness. I was struggling to find it, but then I went into the contents. That was on page 31 of this edition.
Okay.
So you can find that there. Also, you mentioned about godchildren not choosing their godparents, which they can't really do.
Mm-hmm.
However, I have a testimony in here of a godchild who did select her godparents. If you want to know more about that, you've got to get your copy.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, it's a powerful resource. You know?
Okay, right, let's move on. We're going to move on. Quick, rapid question and answers, right?
Okay.
Okay, so we know that, by the way, I must say this something about Martin. He's not just an author. He does a lot of other stuff. You want to tell us about some other stuff that you do?
Oh,
before
okay.
we go on into...
I love music. I write, and I do spoken word. So look forward to hearing some music from me at some point in the near future.
And this is not the only book you've written, actually.
No, I've also written another book. I've written a book for grandparents. Okay. So whilst this is for godparents, I've written one for grandparents. It's like a book/diary based on the scriptures that talks about leaving an inheritance for your children's children. So it allows families to, and I really think it should be in every household, it allows families to sit down with their parents, their grandparents, and take information, take notes about their life, growing up as a child, their community, things that they loved, and so on and so forth. And then once they've completed it and maybe put some pictures and stuff in there, they can then leave that book for their own grandchildren or great-grandchildren or great-great-grandchildren as a gift, a family heirloom that they can embrace, and that's starting to take off now as well. Absolutely
brilliant. Now, let's go a little bit more into the difference between the master copy, I call it the master copy, and the smaller versions. Anything else you want to tell us about the different versions that you are working and have worked on?
Yes, so this one I've heard it referred to as being the ground level. And what I would say is if you have anywhere between 1 to 3 godchildren, you definitely need this edition. This will supply you sufficiently. Okay. And this has been blessing many people in the community. Whereas the Ambassadors edition now, this is if you have 4 or more godchildren, or if you're a minister in the very church where you have several of these that you're giving away to godparents. Every church should have their own version of this one here as a master Ambassadors edition. So for example, if we was a christening where there was 8 children being dedicated, and say for example they all had this copy, but one of them was having an issue with their godchildren, and they were like, you know, something not connecting from this book, they could come back to the minister of that church and say, you know, I'm working with this book, and I've come up to this hurdle. Is there any way you can help me? That minister can draw from their own copy of the Ambassadors edition, and there's a lot more in there that would then help them and support them with this. Yeah, so just to give a couple of examples, where I recommend several books that you can either listen to yourself or recommend for your godchildren, I give a review on each of those books in the Ambassadors edition, where there's a directory in the back of this edition. There's a larger, expanded version which has even more information, more services, more providers of products in this edition as well. So.
Now, one of the things that affects us in life, and this is a reality we can't deny, is that finance. So I know you're working and making sure that you even break this down even to a more affordable. And tell us a little bit about that. You're splitting it up so that people can buy particular. What is your plan regarding that?
Okay, so what really happened was, whilst I was compiling this Ambassadors edition, I knew it was going to take a long time to complete, because this took me 4 years.
Wow.
But I couldn't wait that long. I needed to get something out there because our children are dying. There's knife crime. We have county line activities, and so many things are happening. I said, whilst I'm waiting for this master version to finish, this manual as you refer it to, I needed to get something out there, and this is what this was.
Okay.
So whilst this was out there doing the rounds for a year and some change, if anybody has this copy and love this copy, but are like, man, no, I wish I had this, I then said, let me make some supplements, let me make some modules, break them down into modules so that they can get individual copies. So I don't want to give too much away about that,
okay,
but there is something that's coming, and I have a snippet with me.
Okay.
And this is the first one.
Okay.
That will be made available. So it break it down, and there'll be.
So let's break it down. So that's gonna be. Let me just get this clear.
It's like a supplement. So
okay.
if they have this,
right,
and they want to get more of what they're missing out on,
right,
instead of getting this, they can then get the supplements.
Okay. We have to move on. Are you available? You're doing something and being available. You're setting something like you can come to churches, you can do talks. He's available. I'm going to say this to you. He's available if you want to invite him down. So you have a big congregation, a big church, and you'd like Martin to come along and do a seminar for you, and the whole idea of role modeling and parenting, godparenting and other subjects. He's prepared to do it. Tell us a little bit more about that plan that you have and put it in place.
Yeah, well, it's very important, and definitely open and passionate to help. So if there are any churches that are serious and they can see the value, the importance of this vision, by all means, please reach out. I'll be happy to assist, because this is so vitally important. And just to give an example, if you as a godparent are in a position where I'm making you feel guilty because you have godchildren that you have let slip by the way, you've not been in contact with them, and I'm pressing this upon your heart, fantastic. To the pastors, there are hundreds of individuals that are like this. Now, why it's important for them to either read this book first or to have me come and speak to them first is because if they're going to reconnect with their godchildren who might be 7 years old, 10 years old, 13, 15, 17, whatever age you're going to reconnect with that godchild, you have one shot at making it land. Because if you feel challenged and you want to reconnect, and then you think, okay, let me just go and pick up the phone and call them without hearing some suggestions, and you pick up the phone and you're like, hey, listen, I've just been hearing something, want to reconnect with you, and they turn around and say, well, okay, that's nice, but where have you been all my life? Like, where were you when it's been 7 years, I'm good, I don't need you. What are you going to say next? Are you going to be ready for that kind of pushback? How are you going to handle that? That's why this is important. You need to be equipped to know how to handle the pushback that you're going to face, but we need to overcome it, because they need you more than they realize they need you. But you need to be equipped. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Fantastic. How do people get a hold of the copy? What's the best, what do you say? Where do they get a hold of the copy of the book?
Okay, there's a few ways. There's a few ways you can get this. First and foremost, if you have an account with Amazon, you can access this on amazon.co.uk, and it will be sent directly to your home. Another way you can get this is there are some local bookshops that you can get them in, and they are in Wallington, Leighton, Kingston or Brixton, bookshops in those areas. Another place you can get them from is, currently there are some churches who are acting as a distribution hub, which is fantastic, and I'm looking for hundreds if not thousands more that will do the same. And currently those churches include Assemblies of the Firstborn, New Jerusalem, we have the Ways Ministries, and Refuge Temple, and I'm sure I'm missing some others, but
you will put them up up so that people can know if they want to, if they're in your area. And by the way, I'm Assembly of the Firstborn, so I'm 100% behind this project. I think the church needs it.
Yeah. So they can reach out to those churches, and even if I haven't mentioned a church, that please go to your own assembly. You go to your own church and say to the pastor, we're hearing about a book called Raising Up Role Models, and there are some churches that are distributors of this. can you become, can we become a distributor of this book and let them, purchase and have them there so it's there available, especially if they conduct baby blessings, christenings or dedications, and some assemblies call them different names. Get them on board and let them be a distribution hub as well.
I must admit that this book is really well researched. I want to say to the audience out there, this is really well researched. You will not be disappointed, I promise you.
Thank you.
When you get a hold of it. When I saw them, I said, I want the ambassador. I want the ambassador because he's got so much information in it.
Yes.
Of course, they all have information in it, but this is like it goes. This is the cream of the crop. Okay, so final question. Anything else you want to say about yourself, who is marching, or anything else that you haven't said yet? I haven't said about you. Because I'm blown away by your humility. I must say that. Because this man is not after money. He's after the heart of God. And that's what I love about this man of God.
Very important. Very important. Yeah, very important. Because it's young people. They are, ever since we had the London riots in 2010, I don't want to say too much about that, but the fact that we've had so many young people affected by things that are happening around us, and even of recent times with COVID, the trauma that they're going through, they need our help. There's an old proverb, African proverb, that says that it takes a village to raise a child. You can modernize it by saying it takes a community to raise a child. And this book is built pretty much around that kind of ethos. It takes us to raise our children. And in order to rebuild our communities and to rescue our children, we need to be better equipped to help them, because there are different challenges that they are facing compared to what we would have been exposed to in our day. So the internet in itself is one huge environment that is so vast, and the types of music that young people are exposed to now, if you don't know anything about their world or their environment, immediately you're disconnected from them. Just to give you a quick example, I remember there was a time I asked my son about his favorite music or his favorite song, and he said, "Yeah, Dad, I've got this new favorite song." And I goes, "Okay, what is it?" And he told me the title of it, and I thought, okay, that sounds strange, but let's listen to it. So long story short, I sat down with him to listen to a song that he said was his favorite song. Probably wouldn't have been a song that I would listen to, but it's his, and if I dismiss it, we're losing a connection, we're not going to bond. So I said, okay, I hear it, let's sit down and listen to a lyrics video of this same song. And through listening to a lyrics video of the same song where you can see what's being said, we both discovered at the same time that the song was actually about black magic and witchcraft.
Wow.
Which I didn't even need to say anything to him,
right.
But he was able to say, "Dad, yeah, clearly this song is no longer my favorite song."
Okay.
But that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't first taken the time to sit down with him, spend that time listening to the song with him, and listening to watching a lyrics video with him.
Okay.
And it's just those little moments, little things like that.
That's very interesting. And this wasn't in the end schedule, but I really need to ask you this: do you need to connect then, or because I'm thinking so? This book is so impressive that I'm just thinking sometimes we need to take this outside of the church circle, because it's very Christian based, very church based, and I'm not apologizing for that. But like one of the group of people that I associate with is people that say Muslim, for example, who also have children and would want something that can impact their children. But they might not want to tune into a Christian-based thing. Have you got any plan to make it more widely available to the local community, not just social community, like the social services and things like that? Because I think this book transcends. Believe me, the contents in this book transcends just Christian churches. It goes wider than this. So I don't know if you have any plan. Maybe put it into your mind that you can probably start doing that.
It already does. And that was another one of the reasons why I called it Raising Up Role Models instead of Raising Up Godparents.
Okay.
Yeah, because I didn't want it to be a thing where people would hear godparents and think, oh man, well, this is only for godparents, it's only for the church. So it's really a challenge that I'm presenting primarily to those who have the title godparent, because godparents today, different from yesteryear, at that time had to be Christian, had to be believers. Whereas now people are choosing godparents who are not necessarily of a faith, or they could be secular or atheists even. I've heard of godparents who are atheists, and it's like it might not connect or make sense that it's possible, but it's possible. So if it's possible, are they excluded? No. Once they have the title godparent, I'm presenting this to you as a book and a resource that you can tap into and not feel like it's beating you over the head with religion, but more so just providing you with strategies and ideas, suggestions on how to reconnect with your godchildren in a practical way. To give an example, especially to those of you who are listening, if I was to say to you, as a godparent watching this now, and I say to you, choose a number between 1 and 28, what number would you select? In fact, drop it in the comments if there's a space for you to drop it in the comments down below. Pick a number between 1 and 28, drop it in the comments. If you're not able to do that, whatever number comes to your mind, that number, let that be the number every month that going forward, you're going to, after you've either read this or heard from myself, you're going to connect with the godchild on that date every month.
Wow.
So for me, my date is the 2nd of every month. The 2nd of every month is the date that I connect with all of my 7 godchildren, either on or just around that date. So every month they're expecting to hear from me, and we have a conversation that lasts no less than 5 minutes. Your conversation has to be at least 5 minutes or longer. And this will help you with knowing how to make those conversations endure that period of time. To give one example is knowing the difference between closed questions and open questions. Because if you're asking questions like, hey, how are you doing? And they say, fine. You've got to struggle with more questions. But if you change the question from being a closed question like, how are you doing, to an open question like, hey, listen, tell me about your week, or tell me 3 things you learned today. Now they've got to think, okay, and it encourages more conversation, which allows the conversation to flow and have a productive conversation with them.
Well, Martin, I'm so sorry that this interview has come to an end, but it's been a joy. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
And it's been an honor to be able to have this interview with you. And I trust that those of us that are listening to this, that it would inspire you the way it has inspired me to engage with others. Because I'm telling you, like I said previously, there is nothing, I have not seen anything like this on the market. And I believe that there is a need. Yes. So I want to bless you, and as you go forward in your journey with God, that you continue to be an inspiration that you have been. I don't know if you want to make any final comments.
Thank you.
I am out.
No, thank you. No, I think we've covered everything there. So please go forth, be blessed, and indeed reconnect with godchildren all over the world. Or if you don't have godchildren but you're an aunt or an uncle, the strategies and suggestions work exactly the same for your nieces and your nephews. And even if you don't have nieces and nephews, if you have a neighbor or a close friend or a heart to be a mentor to children, to young ones, this book can help to equip you to play your part in your sphere of influence. So please let us all play our part. Some can speak to thousands, but if you're called to speak to 1 or 2, that makes the world of a difference. And in a time where we're hearing our children are flagging up on the news because of knife crime or going missing, and we're looking for people that might have seen someone that's gone missing. How about if we was to change the narrative and a young one was to be on the news because of an invention that they were encouraged by their godparent to pursue, or a goal to achieve or something? That would be what we'd love to hear, and we could celebrate and applaud. So please play your part in your community where you are. Get equipped, get your resource, and let's make a difference.
And most important, get a copy.
Yes.
God bless you.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
In Jesus' name.
Thank you.
Amen.